I got a couple of houses here, just about ready to roll. Actually hitting the market this week. About time. Now, missing a range hood. Beep, beep. Why? I don't know either, because it's always something, right? My name is Brian Bandas. I'm building a real estate development company. I'm becoming a better father, a better husband, a better entrepreneur, and a better man every single day. Let's get it. All right, so I've given a lot of thought to this video, and it's sort of a tough one to make. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a professional in this realm, but I have a lot of personal experience seeing and beginning to understand how really negative views of myself and of the world were affecting me and what I was able to do. What I want to touch on are the three areas of mindset and of emotional health that I think, as I began to find wholeness and healing in those areas, they started to really make a difference to me in my business. All right, so those three areas are my view of myself, my view of other people, and then my view of the world and circumstances. And I will just start by telling you a quick story about my view of myself. Because of some things that I went through when I was a kid, I had sort of internalized this message. It's really hard to describe it, but basically that I was a loser. I sort of had it in my mind that half the world, they were the haves and then there were the have-nots, and I was just, by default, I was a have-not. My family went through a pretty nasty divorce when I was a kid. I lived in the Texas Baptist Children's Home for a while. We struggled, financially, and it was just kind of ugly. My dad, moved away a little bit, about an hour away from me, and just a lot of things went opposite of how I wish they would have gone, right? And I internalized some really negative messages. In fact, I remember growing up neighbors with this kid named Nick, and we would play every single day, and then my family went through that, and he moved, and what happened was we moved into my dad into an apartment, my mom into the Baptist Children's Home, and then I went to play with Nick, and his family had moved into this beautiful house on a hill with views in South Austin. And we went, and he had this huge house, and we played on his Sega, and he had his own room with his own bathroom, and he had these cool pennants on his wall that I wanted and couldn't have. And just sort of, I took in this message. I didn't realize it. I couldn't have told you this at the time, but I took in this message of oh, he's on that half, I'm on this half. And so what that looked like as I got older is that I wouldn't try things. I would just assume this is my lot in life. This is who I am. This is who I'm not. This is what I can do. This is what I can't do, that kind of thing. And for the longest time, I viewed anything that I accomplished as basically dumb luck. I had a little bit of success in a music career, and instead of feeling like, oh, those things must not be true because I'm having success, really, the message was, yeah, well, you got lucky because you hitched your wagon to the right people, because we know that you couldn't have done this because you're a loser. And so in business, what that began to look like, and thankfully through real estate, of all things, I wouldn't have expected it, I started to see patterns of self-sabotage. And my wife even pointed out to me one time, there was a deal that I had been working on. Finally, an opportunity was sort of coming, and I wouldn't go after it. And finally she said on a walk one day, why are you self-sabotaging on this? And I had no response. I couldn't say, no, I'm not. I looked at it and I went, crap, I am. Why am I doing that? I also would, anytime I had clients who I saw as higher dollar clients, anybody spending, at the time more than $250,000, $300,000 on a house, I felt like, oh man, they're in this half and I'm in this half, and they're going to find me out. And I would sort of self-sabotage. I didn't feel like I could take on clients like that. Even though at the time I actually owned a house that I had bought for $250,000 or $260,000 or something at the time. But I had this view of myself that meant that I couldn't do certain things, and I wouldn't even try, or if that type of opportunity came up, I didn't have the confidence to move forward, and I would self-sabotage in order to avoid the pain of the inevitable, obvious, certain failure. I would just avoid the opportunity altogether. And so that view of myself affected the way that I was able to provide for my family, and it affected my ability to build things and sort of begin to live out the fulfillment of who I was capable of being, right? I believe that God made me with some real potential power inside me, right? And part of my calling in life is to realize that and to fulfill that, to be a steward of what I've been given. That is how my view of myself negatively impacted my business, which I never would have expected. And honestly, until I started to get some clarity, I wouldn't have even been able to tell you that I had a negative view of myself. So finally, through therapy, which I highly recommend to anyone, every single person on the face of the planet is carrying around trauma of some kind, 100% of people. And so I highly recommend to anyone, try some therapy and see if this person can help you sort of discover. All it is figuring out, why is my mind thinking this way? And some of it's good and some of it's not. And through that, I began to uncover, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I believed these really dark, negative things about myself. And that really opened some doors, because as soon as the assumption that I'm a loser is gone, then I started to wonder, like, what am I capable of? What's possible? And the really cool thing, the good news, is that I haven't even gotten to that yet. I don't even know yet. I'm nowhere near the limits of what's possible. I'm just starting to enjoy the fun journey of discovering the answer to that question. So getting your view of yourself right is step one, and it is crucial, and it is absolutely directly linked to business. And that takes us to the second item, which is how we relate to and view other people. And I'm here to tell you that if you see yourself negatively and your view of yourself is damaged and it's not healthy and it's not whole, there is no way that you are relating to other people in a truly healthy way. Now, one thing I've learned for sure, and that is that to be great in business, you've got to learn to be great in your interactions with other people. Whether or not you're in sales, right? If I own a business, I'm not really in direct sales. I do sell these houses, but even that, I'm not really trying to convince people to buy them, right? I just put them on the market, and especially right now in Nashville, I'll take the best offer. But I am in sales when I'm trying to convince people to work for me. I'm in sales when I'm trying to convince investor partners to invest with me and to entrust their wealth and their wealth building to me. That's sales. And I'm trying to say, hey, I'm the kind of person you can trust. Here's my expertise. Here's how I operate. So my ability to relate well to other people very directly impacts the type of potential that I'm able to realize in my life, right? And for me, that was really, really hampered by my views of myself. Because my views of myself were unhealthy, then anything negative from someone else was highly threatening, because my fear was, I'm a loser. And anything that comes in that I believe to maybe confirm that, I then have to fight against. In fact, I remember when I was in my music career with my band Love and Theft, I remember instances where I look back and I think, oh man, my response to that was super defensive, right? Really emotionally immature response of receiving what might have been really fair criticism, something worth considering at least, and instead getting really defensive because my fear was, I might be a loser. They bring criticism that could be helpful, and instead of hearing that criticism, I respond really defensively because anything that would confirm anything negative about me is highly threatening. My view of myself caused me to interact with other people in a really defensive way, and at times a really judgmental way. And the judgment came from insecurity. I needed to be able to explain to myself why whatever they're saying is ridiculous and stupid, and I don't need to listen to it. Because if it is true, then it might mean I'm a loser because my view of myself is so low. And so instead, I need to make sure that they're the idiot so that there's no validity to anything negative they might have to say about me. Instead of having the opportunity to go, he's saying I'm defensive. maybe I can tend to be defensive, right? If I heard that and I wasn't defensive, then I could do some self-examination and become a better person. Instead, I had these really negative views, and it kept me from being able to examine criticism and get better for a long time. So one of the best things that ever happened to me was letting go of the negative beliefs. Just the first step was to just go, not all the way to like, I'm the man, I'm a winner, I'm a champion, but just to go, what if that's not true? What if those negative things that I have known, quote unquote, for so long about myself, what if they're wrong? Well, now I have this hole to fill, because where that truth was, there is now nothing, and I have to figure out what actually goes there. What is true about me? And I began to try to unravel and discover that. And that was incredibly empowering and uplifting. And I had an experience with my therapist one day, and this is pretty personal stuff, but I want to share this with you because it's been so life-changing to me. I had an experience with my therapist, and I was telling him a story from my childhood. And in that story, something bad was happening, and I was probably 10 or 11, and I sort of fought back. I basically was at odds with an adult and kept fighting back. And I don't know if the behavior was correct, but he said, wow, it sounds like you were a really strong person in that moment. As soon as he says that, boom, waterworks, I'm crying. It was like I couldn't hear this positive thing about myself. As soon as he said, you're a strong person, the voice in me that was afraid I was a loser, I couldn't even bear to hear that, because it was like, I wish that was true, but we know that I'm not. We know that I'm just all these negative things. I can't be this really positive thing of a strong person. So he said that. I started crying. So we kind of talked it out. I'm like, I don't know. I wish I was a strong person, but it's hard for me to think of myself that way. I don't think of myself in positive ways at all. What's funny is I think that in my past, during a lot of this time, a lot of people saw me as a confident person. A lot of people saw me as a successful person as I was doing this music career. And it's so interesting. When I see celebrities now, I wonder what's going on inside, because what we see outside is not automatically a reflection of how they see themselves, right? I began to go, all right, what would it be like if I just accepted that truth and said, you know what? Yeah, I am a strong person. How would that feel? And I began to sit with that. And the reason I want to share this is because I want you to think the same thing. You've got some sort of message, something that says you can't, you're not enough, you're not good enough, whatever, like you are something negative, and you have accepted it as true, or at least probably true. My question to you is, what if those things are not true? And then, to take it a step further, if those things aren't true, then when someone else is interacting with you, you don't have to be threatened by them. If they tell you, if somebody tells me I'm a loser, my response now is like, no, I'm not. You're just wrong. That's the end. I don't even have to get mad. You're just wrong. I don't feel threatened by that, because I now have a grasp of the truth about myself. And so I can then take that and I can communicate really openly, really honestly, really vulnerably with other people, knowing that their reaction to it and their response to it, I can't control it, and it doesn't dictate the truth. So if I share this video with you guys and I go, man, I struggle with these things, and somebody gets on here and says, dude, what a loser, like I can't control that reaction, and it also isn't true, and I really don't need to worry about it. It's incredibly freeing. Piece, as I mentioned, is how we interact with the world and with the circumstances and the things that happen around us, which we cannot control. I've got one right now where my windows came in wrong, then the second half of the order came in late, and then the final part of the order, quote unquote, came in and a bunch of windows weren't there and a bunch of them were wrong. And I can't control that. Like, it's very frustrating, and I can either get bent out of shape or I can take my reality as it comes, right? And so I was driving just a couple days ago and I had this little sort of train of thought. I passed a political sign for, I don't know the guy. It was in Franklin, Tennessee. I passed a political sign and I sort of found myself wondering if he would win. And then I thought, I wonder how he'll feel and how he will react if he doesn't win. And I imagined this person reacting in this really healthy way. I imagined him going, oh, dang, I thought we were going to win that. Okay, then what's next? I don't know why I imagined that, but as soon as I did, I thought, how do I get myself to react that way to things? And to basically assume that things happen for me, not to me. So if I'm this politician and I lose, can my first thought be, interesting, there must be something even better for me in my life right now than being the county commissioner or whatever he was trying to be. There must be something even better in store for me, which is why this didn't play out the way I thought I wanted it to. For me, I think that comes from a belief in God. I believe in the Bible and the God of the Bible. To take a stoic mindset, like you don't have to be a Christian to still take that view, which is that there are things beyond our control and we can decide how we respond to them. I then imagined myself reacting because this window thing was happening like on this day. I was then imagining, all right, what is the equivalent of me reacting this way to window problems or grading problems or whatever? What is the reaction for me to go, it's not what I was really hoping for, but this is the reality I'm in. What do I do now? And rather than letting my emotions control me and having a response that's highly volatile, basically accepting my reality because I can't change it and deciding to function within that reality in a really healthy way. And that as well has made me a much more effective and healthy business person. So I wanted to share all this because it has all been tied so closely to my business life, to building this company, just feeling completely lost and to a degree hopeless, terrified that I couldn't provide for my wife and my first son, and really not believing that I could. And that's a scary place. It wasn't just, it's a little bit tight right now. It was, it's tight right now and it'll never not be difficult because I don't have what it takes. That's a scary place to be. And it wasn't true. My hope is that somebody watches this who believes that about themselves, and by watching this video, you begin to question that because it's not true. It is not true. And the negative things, the negative messages you have in your mind, and they come in so loud and so confident, and they go, this is who you are. This is what you can and can't do. I am daily walking proof that those things are not true. I'm doing things now that are massively and indescribably fulfilling. I couldn't have predicted them. They weren't my brilliant plan from 20 years ago. And I never would have believed that I could do them even 10 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. And so I want to encourage you with this video to begin first to do that work on yourself, your view of yourself, begin the healing. And that will trickle down to everything you're trying to do, whether you're trying to build a business or a brand, or you're trying to get in shape, whatever the thing is that you're trying to do, the mountain you're trying to climb is going to begin with a truly healthy, loving view of yourself. I'm talking about truly believing in your inherent value and at least considering the possibility that you maybe were created as like a pretty spectacular person and that there's amazing potential. You don't even have to commit to it. Just consider the possibility. All right, guys, I know this was a pretty different video than I typically do. I can't stress to you enough how closely related this emotional healing work has been to what I'm now doing in business. And at the risk of sounding arrogant, I'm doing awesome stuff in business. I'm pumped about it. I'm learning and growing rapidly every single day. And I would be missing out on all this had I not forged a much healthier view of myself. And so even though this is a business channel and this is a video about sort of, psychology and emotional health, mental health, I'm here to tell you that they are closely and directly linked. And the effort and energy and time that you put into doing that work on yourself and your view of yourself, your view of others, and your view of the world and the circumstances that you can't control that will have a direct and positive effect on what you're able to do, building your business and building yourself up. So listen, if you got something out of this, I truly appreciate you spending this time with me. I do a video every single week about real estate development, building this company, and apparently every once in a while about emotional health. So if you're enjoying it, if this uplifted you, then hit me with one of those, and one of those, and one of those, and I will see you next week.